Welcome back to Built by Becker. Today's episode is going to be fire. Trust me when I tell you, longtime friend, mentor, community celebrity. This guy is known by so many, and I could go on for hours just doing his intro. But I'm going to do his introduction and let him tell a little brief synopsis about himself before I start doing some questions. My dear friend, my guest for today's podcast, Chef Brian Roland.
Thank you very much, Blake.
Yeah.
Really appreciate the intro there. I'm honored to be here. I'm super excited to see what you've done with your business, and this podcast to me has just been such a wonderful way to connect with the community, and I'm honored, really, truly to be here. And through our past and history, I mean, it's just been an amazing journey.
This has been a long time in the making. Trust me, when
sir.
I first wrote my outline for what I wanted to do, when I decided I was going to do a podcast, I had to come up with who I would want to be guest. And your name has been on this list since day one, before I ever had my first interview. And I knew it was going to be the right time and the right place and the right setting so that it would all work out. And probably going to be in God's time. And of course, God always shows up. So here you are. So I thank you for coming in, for communicating with me over the past few months to set it up when it was perfect for you, because when it was perfect for you, it was perfect for us. So thank you very, very much. And congratulations on, all the stuff you got going on right now. It's been amazing to watch. But we'll dive into a little bit of that. I would like to just have you give, just like who you are for people that might not know you,
Sure.
Who you are, what you do. And, we'll start with that.
All right, sounds good. Well, my name is Brian Roland, born and raised in New Jersey. I went to culinary school at age 17, graduated in 1999, and my path led me towards a couple of really great restaurants. I worked at Restaurant Danielle and Cafe Boulud in Manhattan for Daniel Boulud, a few country clubs in New Jersey, where I was from. When I was at culinary school, I did my internship down here in Naples at a place at the time called Maxwell's on the Bay. And loved it down here. My grandparents lived here. I ended up making it my home in 2001. Opened up Chop City Grill in Bonita, went to Crew in the Bell Tower Shops in Fort Myers, and then came back to Maxwell's on the Bay. At the time, I didn't know that's who I was talking to, as a headhunter over the phone. And they hired me back to renovate and change it into M Waterfront Grill. So I was there for about 5 years. And, after doing what I had done for 15 years or so, I was like, God, I really want to do my own business. I loved the intimate in-home dining, doing a lot of the tableside presentations, connecting with people was really what I love. And my passion for food, my passion for cooking had just led me to this wonderful journey of starting my own business. So I started Crave Culinary back in 2013. We had started to do some community outreach events, even just prior to me opening, when I was still at the restaurant. And what was good about that is I got connected with some of these great nonprofits and organizations that were doing a lot of good in our community and outward. And St. Matthew's House was one of them. And so I did an event there with the chef at the time, and God bless him. And, it was a fun little chop challenge, kind of a way to get the community chefs together to see who could compete by utilizing the ingredients in-house to service the residents of St. Matthew's House. And they were our judges, and we were, it was exciting, it was fun because here we are taking donated food and things, and it was just a lot of fun. And I met this young guy who was just passionate about marketing and about connecting with the people in his unit there and building up the catering aspect of St. Matthew's House. And his name was Blake Becker.
What? You don't say.
I do say, yeah. So, it was really cool just getting a chance to learn a little bit more intimately about St. Matthew's House, because you knew so much about it along your journey. And I just remember us talking one day. We went to lunch, and, you were telling me you wanted to maybe do a little of events with us because you thought it was fun and exciting, in which you did, and we loved it. And we went to lunch, and I was ready to start to make some moves and expand. So, long story short, this is how Blake and I really started on our journey. And,
Wow.
You joined me as my first hired employee. my first hired sous chef, and you yourself didn't have a ton of culinary experience, and it
And
was
a year of working in a homeless shelter.
You're right,
kitchen.
right. I
But
mean,
with two really decorated chefs.
Yes.
So I did learn some in that first year. But yes, it was minimal compared to most chefs that were in this area. Of course.
and you and I could talk for hours and hours and hours about the experiences that we had in the couple years that we worked together at Crave. But to answer your question, I own Crave Culinary, catering and events. We are a personal chef concierge and event company. We do everything from 2 to 2,000 and literally everything in between. We've done a lot of the large galas in town, the Naples Zoo, Grace Place. We've helped at the Conservancy, a lot of the larger fundraising efforts. The Wine Fest is a huge one for us every year. And we've developed just a great reputation for high-end, high-quality food and service. It doesn't mean that we won't do everything. We do, backyard barbecues and casual dinners as well. But those that really want to build an experience and maybe take some of their journeys that they've learned from traveling out and around and bring it back here to home, and then hire us to come in and recreate that experience so that they can impress some of their friends. We do a lot of really fun stuff, and it really inspires my chefs and my team. Especially when we get clients that like to recreate experiences, because there's often things that we've never done.
Yeah.
And it's fun to experiment.
Oh, yeah.
You remember the
I
earlier
do. It
days,
was
the
my favorite
experimentation
times.
part. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to do when it comes to food.
Yeah.
And a lot of untouched areas still today. And this was back 12 years ago, we were doing a lot of this. So the catering company's been great. We also have a hospitality staffing company called Crave Event Staffing. And we have Crave Management Group, which is our restaurant arm. So we own some private restaurants, Gather at Valencia Trail, and then also we just opened in November Kinsale, which is a private golf club in North Naples. We do all their food and beverage there.
Wow.
We've got a couple on the books moving forward. So
nice.
Yeah,
nice.
So it's been an amazing journey, and I'm very proud of where we are and the people that we've been able to meet along
Quite
the
the
way.
decorated resume there, kid.
Well, thank you. Thank you, sir.
So I had like 6 questions here, and you answered all of them. So that's great. We're going to jump right to the end of the podcast and cut this thing off. It'll be fantastic. Thank you for having me, Brian. But I'm going to dive a little deeper. Grew up in Jersey, you said.
Yes, sir.
How did that cultivate or kind of influence your cooking style and your love for food?
I was young, didn't have experience. My first job was working as a dishwasher at a small Italian restaurant. Worked my way up to food prep, then ended up.
You saying that you wash dishes? Chef Brian Roland washed dishes.
Come on, sir.
So that's who taught me?
How
You got to do dishes before you can do anything else. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't understand what the dish guy's going through, there's no way you can make the menu.
That's the truth.
What it is. So I love you for that too. You've taught me so much on how to start from the very, very bottom. So yeah. So keep going.
No,
I had to mention that though. Like that stuff. It's how I operate my business today. So
a lot of those lessons that I learned from mentors of mine, it ingrains in me that, the values of not just business and not just its respect of people, its respect of a position and a role within a company and an organization, and understanding that everyone plays a role in the success of everyone's happiness and in the success of the business itself. And we're all here to provide a service. And, we have to depend on each other in order to get there. So starting as a dishwasher, you're right. I mean, it's a great way to learn from the ground up how important and valuable that is. I will tell you today that, especially with the amount of events that we do in a day, some days 5-10 events in one day, the dishwashers are probably the most valuable.
100%. The most important person in the team.
Oh, my goodness.
Might not the best paid,
right,
but definitely the most important.
Well,
that's just the nature of the business.
Let's think about 12 years ago when you and I were doing this. I mean, dishwasher rate was like $10 an hour. Right. Now they're making $18 an hour. So
that's
it's
crazy.
a big
lucky dishwashers
right?
out there. You lucky dishwashers. Don't even say you're not lucky for having a job. $18.
But it's they're valuable roles. And so so starting in a small town restaurant, just kind of growing there, worked my way into the front of the house a little bit, learned customer service a lot. And I just think it gave me a great, well-rounded understanding of what it takes to at least to build a restaurant experience. I didn't yet know what was to come, but it helped me understand that part of it. And, and then working in country clubs, one of my mentors too, at a country club called TPC Jasna Plana in Princeton, New Jersey. it really kind of helped elevate my cuisine, understanding of cuisine to a higher level. And so these are all like foundation building blocks. And I just remember one day coming home my junior year of high school to my dad, and I said, I think this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I love this. I had finally learned food prep, and I
What was
was
his response?
immediately he said, "Okay, if this is what you want to do, we're going to get you into the best culinary school out there."
I love that.
I do too.
And I love your dad. Shout out to Bruce. What's up, buddy?
I loved your dad as well. Really.
Yeah. So that's amazing because we are fathers of little girls, right? And I remember, and as much as I love my dad, he was very determined to have me do certain things the way he wanted them to be done, And I remember, he loved music. He was a drummer, and a very good one.
Yeah.
I love music, but it wasn't drums. I
Right.
liked like electronic music and rap music. And I see as an adult now where him trying to force me to do his type of music left an uncomfortableness or a bad taste in my mouth about that, where if maybe he would have just supported my love for whatever type of music it was, that maybe that would have encouraged me to do more with music instead of I just turned my back on anything that he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I think about that with my daughter. Like if she comes to me and says, "Dad, I want to be a teacher," cool. I'm going to give you every resource you absolutely need to be the best teacher in the world.
Yeah.
Or you come to me and say you want to be a chef, I'm going to make sure you go to CIA. I'm going to make sure, you know what I mean? I'm going to do everything in my power, open you up a restaurant, whatever it is, so that you have every opportunity. And I think that's important to let the individual that's inside all of us actually shine. And now that I'm on this, spiritual ride that I'm on, to let the natural gift that God gave each one of us, right? Because God gave you your gift for charm and people and food, and it all works. And that's why you're so successful at what you do, So I don't ever want to hinder anyone, especially my child's.
Yeah.
Whatever desire it is that they're going for, you want to. So that's why I had to ask, because that's been on my mind.
Yeah.
About certain things as I get older and I see things from a different perspective. Like, man, I wonder if things would have been different or not.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, you always look at people and you wonder, how did you get there? And often you can go back through the timeline of life and recognize little milestones and little connections that people make that inspire them, that help support them in the way that they need to be supported. And so you raise a great point. I mean, my daughter now, she's 3.5.
Little barista. Little barista.
Yeah,
see her making coffee.
Being in the kitchen with me, being in the kitchen with mom. I mean, her barista with mama videos are like, they're like an internet sensation now. But she's just got such a kind spirit, and what I love about her is she's learned how to be herself, and she's learned how to bring her own personality out there. And sometimes it might be a little wild and goofy, and sometimes it might be a little bit, she needs a little bit more comforting. And, I think that part of that is being 3.
Yeah.
But part of that is like we're really, truly getting a chance to see her now. And so revert back to when I came home and I talked to my dad, and, my mom and dad were both the same. They would support me in whatever it was that I thought was, what I wanted at that time. And early on, I wanted to be a dentist like Dad. But then I started finding my passion in my way. And so, similar story to yours, it's like, had I had gotten the support from Dad to really, if he had pushed me in the way of dentistry, I might have actually opened myself up a little bit more to it, but it probably wouldn't have been something that I would have enjoyed as much. And so when he gave me that immediate, okay, I'm in. If you're in, let's do this.
That's awesome.
We just applied, and I got early acceptance my junior year. Senior year was my only year I got straight A's in high school. The only year, which is odd because most of the time people go into their senior year, and if they got into school, they're like, forget school. I don't need this. Yeah. So anyway, it was. I think a lot of that helped kind of form me into this driven, person.
Knowing what I know about your story, and I've never heard that part of it where you got straight A's in your senior year, but I do know from hearing your story, reading all the magazine articles, being in the same room when you're being interviewed, hearing it, etc., that from leaving high school, going into culinary school, and I want everyone to know what you had to do to get to culinary school, how you had to wake up, how you had to rollerblade, how you had to get on a bus, how you had to rollerblade to a restaurant, then go 7 floors down in the very basement and do the most minuscule task at a 3-star Michelin chef restaurant. That is the most inspiring thing that I remember. Like that, those stories of you is what made me able to do the 17-hour shift.
Right.
To be able to sweep up at 2 a.m, go home and sleep, and be back at 5:30 to do
Make
the
me sound
brunch.
like a slave driver.
Well, there was times it was only 5 of us, man. We had no choice, you know.
We all
It's like,
did it.
and then nobody did it unwillingly,
I
so
know.
it wasn't like we were forced to it, you know. So
Gosh, that was some of the best times.
but that was like what would tell me, like, man, I'm tired, you know. And I used to think, wait a second, Brian, you know, because I looked at you as an employer, of course, but more as a mentor. Like, wait a second, I'm striving to be better on a daily basis.
Yeah.
If he was willing to, you know, and tell the story, tell what you had to do, you know.
Man, well, you know, getting into culinary school was writing an essay, and it was really just showing my passion for it. And you know, we were kind of selective on who they would take every year, but I was grateful I got accepted. But so afterwards, when I graduated, is when I got the opportunity to go and work in Manhattan. And so living in New Jersey, I would drive to the train station, take the train into Manhattan, you know, half asleep in the morning. I mean, I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock, I'd get down to the train station, hit the 5 o'clock, get into the city at 6:30, rollerblade from the train station to the restaurant, which was in 65 in Madison, I think, 65th and Madison, and or 76 in Lexington was the one I was at the most. And then get down into the dungeon downstairs. You know, you get down, locker room, get yourself in. And I didn't, in the beginning, for like the first several months, I didn't get to see the light of day. I was just downstairs in their prep area, their prep kitchen. But their first week was kind of and I didn't know this, right? So they put you down in this dungeon and they give you these boxes and boxes and boxes of mushrooms. And my job each day was a different variety of mushroom, was to clean them appropriately. First day was just, you know, brushing them. And then it was odd because I never knew that plunging mushrooms in water was an okay thing to do, because I was always taught that they absorb everything, right? And the water, when you go to cook them out, the water is going to leach out and destroy the flavor and the textures and everything. But here I am working for Daniel Boulud, one of the most respected and celebrated chefs in the world.
Yeah.
And this is how he does it. And I'm like, all right, that thought's out the door, right? Like, this has to be the way to do it. But there was a strategy there. You know, there's a lot of stuff that can find its way into mushrooms. And so cleaning them that way and plunging them 3 times in clean water, you had to plunge them. And then they got laid out on these specific towels in the walk-in refrigerator for like 36 hours. So they would dry out, you know, it would absorb, or they evaporate all of that additional moisture. So now you've got a perfectly clean and also perfect textured mushroom. So cleaning them was the first part, but then I would get in there and I would have to, with a paring knife, you'd have to like cut little areas of it. And then there were these little tiny pencil eraser mushrooms called mousserone mushrooms. I will never forget the name of these damn things. I would spend hours picking these little tiny microscopic stems off of these mousserone mushrooms. Apparently the stems were like, they were kind of tough and you wouldn't want to eat that. But the top of it was like just almost like the caviar of mushrooms. You know what I mean? And you know, I'm side by side with other chefs like myself, or at the time I felt like I was just a cook, even though I graduated already. But you know, hours and hours and hours. And there were times during this where you'd see these guys throw their knives down and be like, screw this, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this crap. Not as nicely put.
Right.
And they're out, right? And I'm like, eyes wide open, like nervous, like what am I to do right now? And then I'm like, okay, you know, I'm still here. And the chef would come over and he'd be like, I need you to take care of all these now. And now all of a sudden I got twice the work to do and it's all by myself, and I'd get through it. So 3 days of doing that. And finally, the sous chef pulls me into the office and he says, I want you to know you did a great job over the last couple of days. We really watched you, your composure. You were, you know, you kept within the task that we were giving you. This is a big test for you. And you may not have known we were doing this, but we were testing to see your stamina. We were testing to see how you follow direction. We were testing to see your patience and, you know, really getting an idea of what we can put you through. Because I can tell you that when we take you upstairs to the upstairs kitchen, it's cutthroat up there. You better be ready, because the people that are coming in and dining here are paying the highest price and they expect the best of the best because of who we are. Yeah. So everything you touch has to have a story. It has to have your heart into it. It has to be exactly the way we want it to be. Man, I mean, I'm talking poaching little cherries the perfect way. But before we do that, we got to bend a paper clip and go in the top of the cherry to pull the pit out and leave the stem intact. Can you imagine how many of those I messed up before I got one right? I mean, it was crazy. But you know, you learn those things and those techniques, and it has carried over into my career in so
everything
many ways.
that you do.
So many ways.
Right.
Yeah.
So that, to me, there's been a lot of movies since, you know, you started Crave, and I was a part of that, that have come out, a lot of TV shows that have exposed that really high-end fine dining experience.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to that, you only way you experienced that is you had enough money and enough clout to be able to go to the French Laundry or to Restaurant Danielle or whatever it was to experience, a $2,000 dinner.
Yeah.
And then you brought that into people's homes here in Naples, Florida, which
we brought that, sir.
I just followed. But yeah, so I mean, that to me, for people that love food, and of course I'm a food, I liked cooking, right? And I think that's where I had my dad taught me how to cook. We loved to cook. My dad would watch cooking shows. But it was when I met Eric and Kevin and Chef Brian, who were taking food and making artwork out of it. I mean, prior to that, was homeless for a while, so I wasn't looking at any type of food, you know what I mean? That was pretty, So to see like artwork on a plate, and like you said, someone who takes the time to peel every little stem off of a mushroom, like that's what makes a Michelin star restaurant a Michelin star restaurant. And it's not for everybody.
Right.
Like I know there's people in this room that is like whatever, they wouldn't want to pay for it. You know what I mean? But for those of us that do, like I seek that stuff out. Like I 100% want to know exactly why. And on my food review, I'm like, wait a second, wait. I said we need to take a bite with every single piece on there because the chef created that menu for all those components to be tasted. So when we're going to taste a bite, like, we all have to taste exactly. Now, after that, you want to put stuff on it, that's fine. But let's try it the way that the chef intended it to be.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up, and I think in this business, on the catering side especially, because again, people are hiring us to come in their homes to do these things. It's challenging in the industry overall to please everybody, right? You can't please everyone, and you can't create something that will appease every palate. But we try, and I think when our clients are hiring us and they have specifics that they'd like to see on the plate, 100%, we're going to do our best to make that happen. Allergies, food restrictions, all of that. That's something that is the way of the world right now. But you've heard many times, growing up, I'm sure that chefs will get pissed off that people are changing their dishes, and can you leave this off the plate, and can you make this less this, and can you take this ingredient out? And to your point, I mean, chefs dedicate their heart and soul into creating a dish because you take it from up here in your mind, let's say from your heart to your mind, out your mouth onto a piece of paper, and now you got to create it and actually make it taste good and look good and be appealing to someone to actually want to purchase it. So a lot of that process comes from studying, from trial and error, from experimentation, and truly from passion. And there's a lot of collaboration that goes on in kitchens, which is I think a lot of where you and I enjoyed the most in the kitchen together. But when we eat at some of these higher end places, they've gone through that process. They've tested it to a certain way, and there are a lot of restaurants that will say, "This is our menu. We do not stray away from what is on this paper." So if you don't like something, it's okay if you choose not to eat it. It's okay if you want to push that to the side, but this is how chef intended this to be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of importance, I think, in that. But in today's world, you got to accommodate as much as you can.
You do. And I think, at the heart of every chef is to create a happy patron.
Oh,
right?
For sure.
So if that means making it gluten-free, if that means making it no oil, if that means making it, fat-free, you're going to do your best. And a lot of times we like to be creative. I remember we had to make an entire 3-course menu with no oil. There was a client who couldn't have oil.
I know.
Like everything in every first step was oil. So how are we going to do this?
What do you do?
And
this was before air fryers became big too, right?
So that was a challenge for us, know, and our first thing was, to do a certain ingredient. So love that, man. Let's go into, because you answered some of these questions, education and training. What were some of? I know Chef Daniel Boulud was a huge inspiration. Any other big mentors and inspirations in the food or even outside of the food world that helped you? Because being a chef is not just plates and menus. There's an entire business, an entire structure behind that. Who are your mentors, or who do you give your props to when it comes to who helped mold you to be the businessman behind the restaurant?
So, in no order whatsoever, I'm just going to start speaking about him. So Patrick Verret, Chef Patrick Verret, French chef from Lyon, France. This guy taught me so much about food, so much about passion, but also about people and how to communicate with people. And so he was my chef at that place, TPC Jasna Polana. flagship of all the TPCs, Tournament Players Club. We actually have one here locally as well. And so he expressed in everything he did. He expressed love. He expressed respect. He expressed admiration and passion. And I just remember he'd come in every day and he would walk around. He'd look you straight in the eyes. He'd shake your hand. He'd look you straight in the eyes with his French accent. How are you today? It looks like you did a little bit more lemon, and your alkaline is a little bit low. And he would start to like analyze your face to tell you how you actually are feeling today, right? Like he'll ask you how you doing, and you'll give him your answer, but then he'll look deeper. He could look into your soul through your eyes and tell you your health
Look
status.
into your soul through your eyes.
Yeah,
I like
really.
that.
And but I will tell you, after every conversation with him, no matter what it was about, it was always very uplifting. It was always very inspiring, and he helped me understand how to talk to people, how to really truly communicate with people, and his ability to make everyone feel important and to make them feel as if they're being heard. And
That's crucial.
it
and
is
that
super crucial.
shows as an employee and a team member of your businesses and restaurants that I experienced that firsthand.
Yeah.
And that was super important because a couple places I had worked at prior to that were, and there is a negative connotation around certain chefs where they're angry and
Right.
they scream and they yell and they do this and they throw stuff. And that was not the case in your kitchens. It was actually quite the opposite. And it wasn't even allowed in your kitchen.
Right.
If other chefs who joined the team were like that or came from that style,
Out,
nipped in the butt, or they were out right
we
away.
cut that stuff pretty quickly. And I appreciate you saying that because even back then, I remember hearing a lot of those, pot and pan throwing chefs, and just the battles that would go on in kitchens, the screaming matches, the Gordon Ramsay type stuff that you see on TV. I mean, this is real stuff. This happens at a lot of kitchens. So, but it's all about respect. It's all about making sure that everyone recognizes that I'm here for them and hopefully they're there for me as well. And early in my days of my career, I remember when I first got out of culinary school, I was working at Chops and, here I am, this 21-year-old, and I'm a sous chef. And I'm like, I got the CIA, graduated from the CIA on my shoulders. And, these people that I'm these chefs, these cooks that I'm in charge of now, all are looking at me like, who's this guy? Who's this kid think he is? And half of them are like twice my age and can probably cook better than I can, for however long that it would need for me to learn it. So anyway, I just remember going in every day, and the person that I was, all I wanted to do was prove to myself and prove to them that I have worth and that I'm in their corner. And so I would come in and I would set up each of their stations. I come in early. I'd set up each of their stations. I would do all the prep work that I could, and they'd come in and they'd get ready to go set their station. I'd say, hey, I already set up your station. You might help me with the special today. And they're like, oh, I get to be creative, and you've already done all the hard and mundane work. Yeah, I'm in. So it helped over time for them to respect me as a leader, and it helped me understand what it takes sometimes to build a team. And the team needs to understand that you're there for them just as much as the other way around, right?
So that came from that first mentor.
So he taught me so much about that and about life. My dad has always been a huge inspiration to me as well. He's always had the ability to let me be me and to give me guidance without having to give me guidance. He would allow for me to find the answer within myself.
Yeah.
And
that's so important.
Oh my gosh, man. It was amazing because I would come into a conversation with him, depressed, upset, scared, fearful of whatever it was that I was afraid of. And he would help me kind of sort through the noise, and Brian, let's talk about what are you upset about right now, and what is it that you're actually afraid of? And he helped me realize over time that all I was afraid of was failure. And once I learned that failure is just something that happens to everybody, and what do you do when you fail? You pick back up and try again.
Keep going.
And if you can master that the next time around, all of a sudden what happens? You lose your fear of that. And now it becomes a strength of yours.
Right.
A strength of yours. So over time, I think, my dad really helped me with understanding that part of it. And he's been, he was very successful with his dental business. He just retired actually on my birthday this year in October. And, and now he's able to enjoy life from a different set of glasses. But he's always been just a great mentor and a great person for me to look up to in terms of hard work, structuring business, investments. My grandpa helped me with investments too. And I think just over time, it was a little bit of each of the people, the owners that I worked for. I was never really made to be felt as an employee. I always felt as if I was part of the family,
Mm.
because I had such that great respect for them, and I was there to help them with anything. And so you remember the earlier days of Crave, it was all about building a family atmosphere. And, like you said, no one was unwilling to do something. And that
Right.
was some of the best times of Crave was when we were
Because of your
growing it.
leadership.
Well, I
Because
appreciate
the
that.
guy would come in and do dishes or mop the floor while we were all prepping food. Like that's no different than when you were going and setting up somebody's station,
Yeah.
right? And so that rolls into like how we run our businesses,
Mhm.
and it's real easy for people to look from Facebook or from the outside world and
Mhm.
say, "Oh, they got it so good."
Yeah.
But they're not in the kitchen at 3 a.m. mopping the floors.
Right.
They don't see you doing that part. They
Right.
don't see the me at home writing 6 proposals at
Mhm.
midnight. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So that I can be there at the team meeting at 7 o'clock the next day.
Yeah.
Like there's things that we have to do to keep the machine running.
Right.
And then there's there's always going to be the naysayers and
Yeah.
all the chitter chatter and by the water cooler or whatever. But your leadership for that, especially that first crew that was in Crave Culinary, we believed in what your vision,
Mhm.
right? Which is a huge part of business.
Yeah, for
Knowing
sure.
what you're doing, knowing where you're going. You made the team aware what our vision, where our goals were, what we were trying to achieve as a company, as a team.
Mhm.
We all felt that we had a part of that. We all felt that our voice was going to be heard
Mhm.
and appreciated. As employees, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
People, I think there's a lot of data you can find out about employees, and
Mhm.
money is not the number one thing. It's
Yeah.
that their opinion matters
You're
is
right.
number one.
Yeah.
I think pay is like number 3
Yeah.
on the list of 5. So as a business owner, making people feel like they're important
Mhm.
and that they have a skin in the game and that this is part that you care.
Mhm.
Those things are super important. You did a very good job of that.
I
So,
appreciate that.
any
Thank
other mentors that helped you? So some restaurant owners, your
Yeah.
pops, the couple chefs.
Yeah, honestly, I think a lot of the respected restaurateurs and chefs in this area over time. I think just I think back to Charles Maraday and Chef Asif and Velco over at Sales
Mm.
and and Chef George at the Ritz. Just learning from a lot of them and not even directly, right? I think it's Chris Jones. I think was a
Yeah.
big part early on, right? I mean, Chris was very innovative and just passionate about what he did, and you saw him take his career as a as a top rated chef of this area to then make pizza,
Yeah.
right? But was it just pizza? No, it
No.
was the best damn pizza
Yeah.
you've ever had in
Yeah.
3 locations, and then he did barbecue, and it's like you watch what some of these guys do, and it inspires you, and I think just the way that the chef community is connected, we all are, and the majority of us are all about sharing. We're all about helping one another become better, and that to me and there's a lot of mentorship in that, because I only know so much. But I love that I can continue to learn, and I love to share what I've learned
Yeah.
because you and I have done that so many times. How many times were we up late at night trying to figure out
Yeah.
how we were going to take a drill and attach something to it so that we could spin the drill around and attach little cotton candy strands that we
Yeah.
made to make a little like
Yeah.
spherical cotton candy. Like
But
it's
we
just,
made it happen.
we made it happen. But
Yeah.
it's all about, I think, bringing minds together, and when you're passionate about something, it's easy, I think, to talk
Yeah.
about it.
What what's your biggest challenge been with Crave?
Sleep.
As
Sleep.
as a culinary entrepreneur, what is your biggest challenge? Sleep?
Oh,
Still to this day,
outside of sleep. No, I think, and we'll talk about it a little bit, but my life's changed quite a bit in these past 3 years with the accident that happened. But so my life is different now. I think I can prioritize things a little bit differently now. Business is still extremely important to me, the success of the business, but I've had to hire some extremely talented team members. And over the years, especially these last 3, I've seen them rise to the top and rally to continue to make Crave Companies successful. And so, I think industry wide, even especially since COVID, staffing has been the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
And it's not always just the volume of staff, but it's the quality of staff. And when you're, producing high quality anything, you need to have people that understand, number one, what the end goal is, that can wrap their heads around what it takes to get from point A to point B, and who are willing to keep at it, and
Yeah.
if you fail, pick up and do it again, be honest and open, let's communicate about things. And so I think when it comes to staffing, yes, cost of living and through COVID and everything has just raised
Hmm.
the cost of labor through the roof and the cost of ingredients through the roof. So I will say that that's probably one of our biggest challenges is how do you remain profitable in an environment where costs are just unmanageable without having to make the end user pay for it.
Yeah.
And we can't cut corners.
Yeah.
That's not an option. So we're not going to undersell something, like cut down on the quality of something and sell it for the same price to make that profit. I'm also not going to charge someone 30, 40, 50% more than I can. So what do? Do you cut the portion sizes? The real answer is you got to work together on efficiencies. You got to work together with team members to understand and recognize that if we can do well together, we're all going to benefit from this
Yeah.
financially and whatnot. And so, but I think that's probably staffing is probably a big part of it, and cost of goods is another big part of it. But as far as challenges, venues in this town,
Mhm.
there's not, in the catering world, we do what we do, but if we don't have a home to go to, we've got to have a location.
Yeah.
And if it's not a department store or a car dealership or wherever it may be, there are some, places that do just events. And, we had Venue Naples back
Mhm.
just, for 4 or 5 years before COVID. And when COVID hit, we had to shut it because events were not
Yeah.
happening. But one of the things that I'm excited about is, as we're coming into this next year, our lease is ready to come up. We're debating whether we're going to stay there, find another place. I've already talked to the landlord about this, so it's okay to publish this. But my heart and soul are telling me maybe we're doing another venue.
Need a
Maybe we
space.
need to come up with another event venue space that can benefit us and others in this town to do some cool stuff. So, so I think
So coming soon.
it could
A
be
coming soon.
It
A
could
coming
be
soon. You heard it here first, everybody. Coming soon. New venue, Brian
That's right.
Roland. Let's go. So awesome, man. The dream takes shape. So you create a catering business. You have massive success because I was part of it. I can say that. You have massive success. We start blowing the doors off all the other catering companies in town. We're doing more, bigger events. We try to do better quality stuff, this, that, and the other thing. No offense to the other caterers out there. I love you all. We're all friends. But we did some really awesome stuff.
Absolutely.
We really did. We kind of blew the doors off everybody.
Yeah.
We were having fun doing it.
That was the best
right?
part.
We were having fun doing it. We
Mhm.
made it a thing. We made it a vibe. We had photographers and videographers and DJs, and it was loud, and it was, it was like, it was a vibe,
Yeah.
and that was kind of like how you swept through, right? But, and I'm asking because I'm going through the same process right now. You can't be at every single job. What
Mhm.
percentage, and I'm asking just because I want to know because I have my own percentage, what percentage of less than what you would do you accept for your projects?
Oh man, 0.
I think they say like as a business owner, you have to be willing to accept 75% of what you would have done on a project is okay for paid employees and chefs or project managers and carpenters to do
I think
what I would personally do.
I think that's a fair percentage. It's all about coaching and guiding and training. And, I think if you remember the earlier days, it was like, and I hate even saying this in third person like this, but it was like when they would call in to have an event and my catering manager or my wife, who was our director of operations, would pick that phone up. And it was, Chef Brian's going to be at my event, right? And, is Chef Brian going to be there? He's definitely stopping by, right? And it was, doing 3, 4, 5 events in a day. And I'm one person. So I had to devise this plan where I would start at one event. I would start, with setup and shake hands and make sure everything was set and then bid everyone farewell. I'd go to the next one. I'd plate up first course with everybody. Maybe talk about the first course and introduce the second course, shoot out to the next one, do the third course or the dessert course. And it was just bouncing around town. And although I understood why I was doing it and how important it was tiring.
Yeah.
It was tiring. And it didn't allow me to give my all to one event. So what I had to do is really enable and train my staff and my team, one, to be able to execute with or without me at the level that we wanted. And 2, I think my catering management team and my wife, we had to come up with a script on the phone to help people understand that Chef Brian's going to be involved from the moment we get off the phone in developing the menu
Everything.
and buying the ingredients and prepping everything and getting this stuff loaded. And he's going to send his number 2 guy, who is just about as good as he is, to your event, and they'll execute it with you. So, it's hard to assess what percentage I would say is okay, because I never want to sacrifice quality. I never want it to be anything less. But life for me in the last 3 years, as you know, has been a lot more challenging. And so my teams had to rise above and do it all without me.
You've been on vacation for a
long
few
time. Yeah. If you want to call it vacation, I wouldn't wish this upon anyone. But yeah, it's a lot changed. And but I will say it helped me recognize that empowering people can be a beautiful thing. It really helped me realize that the team that we had built was a lot stronger than I think we even all recognized, that they even recognized in themselves, because they had to rise to the occasion. They sure did. And I am so grateful for
Shout out to Team Crave.
Seriously.
For that,
shout out to all of Team Crave. And all
not
of
just
my
Team Crave, but the whole community, of course, rose up and supported you. But, I asked that because I have, I got off the phone right before I got in here. Clients like something about their project. I'm like, I have 2 team meetings a week. I have 2 financial meetings a week. I have 19 projects right now that I have to show up at.
Congratulations.
You know what I mean? At some point in time during the week, maybe not every single week, but like think about just going to 19 homes between Monday and Friday.
It's crazy. Yeah. How do you even get it all done?
So I have to pick
right.
where the project's at in a certain stage and know that that's when I need to be there to meet the, maybe it's the framer, or maybe it's the specialty guy who's going to do a really cool tile thing, or maybe it's the architect, to make sure before we go to plans that, we're going to be able to do, I have to pick where it's the most important for their project, but they don't always see it that way.
Sure. Of course.
You haven't been at my job site.
Right.
Well, but I have.
Right.
And not only that, I do 3D tours of every single home.
Right.
And we have meetings in my office where we can pull it up on the TV and I can see it and I can ask questions and know for my team, like, where we're at. Like, I physically can't be on every single job every single day. It's just impossible. And so that's where, and, it stinks to say this, right? But I go on jobs and I have great project managers. Yeah. But I see stuff that I'm not happy with and I either tear it out or it's like, man, it's okay. It's not like how I really, really want it. You know what I mean? And it's like, I have to go in and nitpick those kind of things, you know? And so I know, like, if it was me and I was there, then it wouldn't have been done that way, but there's a certain percentage of, I guess, leeway you have to give your employees, because no one's going to care as much as me. And I know that.
That's the most important thing there, I think, that you said. And, once you find someone that cares at the level that you do, you want to grab a hold of them and hold on to them for life.
Golden handcuffs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think as I have done this for as many years, we're in our 12th year now. It's understanding. I know it's nuts. It's nuts. It's understanding what to do when something like that happens, so you go on site, you find something that's not right. What's your next action, right? Are you fixing it on site? Are you then really trying to retrain so that this doesn't happen again, right? Give the team the tools to make sure that doesn't happen. Are you having to massage the relationship with the client because the client recognized the error, right? Yeah. And are you now going to have to discount stuff off? Are you going to have to comp it? Are you going to, it's like, how much money have we thrown away from mistakes, whether it be our own or other people?
I have a whole category in my financial report. Yeah.
It's called shit.
Damn,
so
stinks.
There's so much to business, and I think that's number one, is that not everyone understands what it takes to make a business successful. And it's not just you, it's not just the team, there's so many elements sometimes that are so far out of your control. But I think to your point, it's like, how do you bounce from event to event? How do you bounce from site to site? You're only one person, so you try to find tools that can help you save time, be more efficient for them, because when you're being pulled off of a project to go to another project, you're now taking away from somebody else's time, right? So you got to prioritize, which kind of stinks because everyone's paying a premium to have you in their homes, right? Yeah. So that's the tough part is recognizing, well, what is the most important for me today? And, Josh, my GM, Josh for many years, Josh Cook, we joke all the time. I know you can relate to this. It's like, we'll have a to-do list that we set up in the morning and it's every day. And that to-do list gets longer and longer, like everybody's. How many days do you come in with your to-do list and do you actually achieve what's on your to-do list?
I get about 65% of my to-do list because I do the same. I write a to-do list every morning before I leave. I either do it at night or in the morning before I leave work. And it's all the places I need to go visit. and then all the tasks I need to do while I'm driving to
Right,
these
right,
places
right.
or in between meetings or podcasts or lunches or whatever it is I got going on. I know I got to call this guy. I got to schedule this. I forgot about this, or there was a scratch in this. I got to call that person to come back with warranty,
Yeah.
you know. And I used to get so frustrated if I couldn't get everything off.
So
that
that's the
list.
biggest part, right? Because now that we're in the business of employees as well, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of need for management's leadership, right? So we would get interrupted day in and day out, and it's like you have a game plan to get this stuff done by noon. I have to have this done. It's 4:00 and you haven't even started it because the phone's ringing, the employees are coming in, you're whatever it may be. So it's always tough, and in a roundabout way, it's so hard to make that percentage of leniency for job efficiency or for job quality be something that's acceptable, but it's a reality, and I think every business owner deals with it, and I think you just have to pivot. You've got to train, you've got to keep moving, and if you become stagnant and you let these things become the norm, well then, sorry, other caterers, you become the other caterers,
Yeah.
right? Who may be okay with something that's subpar and may
You
be
had
okay
a
with
sabbatical from your business, right?
quite a bit of a sabbatical.
You had a
yeah.
sabbatical,
Mhm.
not a one that you asked for or
No.
would wish on anybody. So you had to be away from your company. I have been able to step out because of great employees, because of
Mhm.
great systems and processes, because of things. But there's times that I still have to step back in because even the best that I have,
Yeah.
sometimes they just need and and I take ownership of this. Like
Yeah.
things get going really well, sales are doing good,
Mhm.
guys are managing products. I don't even really need to. I can show up just to make sure they're doing right. Everything seems to be going good. So it's like, man, I'm going to go do some fun stuff.
Right.
I'm going to break away a little bit. I'm
Right.
going to go do this. I'm going to go do a couple food reviews and shoot some podcasts.
Right.
And a couple weeks later, it's like, whoa, now there's, problems,
Yeah.
So it's like, I got to dive back in, So have you had to, jump back in to recapture your baby, your
I think
since
as I sit here today, this has been something that's been on my mind a lot the past couple of days, and it's where is Crave going next? What is the future?
well, that's one
hold?
of my next questions.
Oh, wonderful. Have I been doing that all along?
Bro, I haven't even had to look at this, and you're answering all the questions like in order. Did you study this thing? What's going on? This is crazy.
Honestly, I didn't. But it's like the natural progression, I think, of how we've been talking today. And I've been thinking a lot about what the next steps are. I talked about the venue. I'm talking about, where's our physical location going to be? What do I want to be now? And I think life has changed a lot. I now have my 3-year-old, which is my heart and soul. I love
Yes.
her and Nicole more than anything. Shout out to Remy.
Yes.
And and I'm really, really loving the extra time that I've had since the accident. And those of you that don't know, I don't mind mentioning it real quick. So I felt like my business had grown to a point where we were at the pinnacle of success. Sales were the best they've ever been. We were getting the most amazing clients and contracts, and we had struggled for 3.5 years to have a baby. We went through IUIs, and we had 3 miscarriages.
Yeah.
We finally had IVF.
Shout out to Nicole, by the way, for
my
that.
goodness, she's been through so much. She is my rock, my heart, the backbone of life right now. And so during that time, it was like, okay, finally, we got pregnant through IVF. We had everything that we possibly could want for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks in, my child's 3 weeks, and I fell off of an elevator lift at a car dealership here in town, and almost lost my life. Brain injury, bladder repair, nerve damage to my foot, patella repair, rod in my femur. I mean, literally crushed me under the lift. I fell off it. The lift came down. Thousands of pounds came down and crushed me. It was a very unfortunate series of events. And I will say, leading up to that, the event that we were catering was perfect. We couldn't have asked for anything better. So literally everything was going exactly the way that we wanted. And then God said, I have a different plan for you. He was telling me for a long time, you need to slow down, Brian. You're getting, I just explained to you, right? Going event to event to event to event every single day, multiply that by years and years of doing it. And it was wearing on me. I was very tired. I was still focused on growth, but I wasn't being the best version of myself for people. Even though they may have seen a good side of me, I knew when I'd come home at night, I was just mentally and physically exhausted. So this happened, and and I wish it didn't happen this way, but God had been telling me slow down, and He sure as heck got me to slow down. I was, in the
Slowed you
hospital.
way down.
Yeah. I was in
Yeah.
the hospital for 2 months. It took me about a year and a half to rehabilitate back to being able to walk properly, eat properly, go to the bathroom. I had to relearn everything. So talk about a saint. Nicole she was 3 weeks postpartum,
Raising your daughter
raising my
and
daughter,
then
trying to now
having,
re-raise me, right?
and you guys have a business that's,
and we got three businesses at the time, right?
that are
How
have
do we
no
make
leadership, but basically,
Right.
suddenly removed.
So you talked earlier about community coming together. This community rallied in so many great ways for me and my family and Nicole, and the support that we have felt since then. I can't even express. The support prior to was super strong.
Yeah.
You remember it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a true testament to building relationships with people and just being true to who you are and being a good person.
Yeah.
But now I really feel like God has given me a second chance at life.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you, God.
Thank you,
Appreciate that.
I have found a much more and higher spiritual connection to God, and I follow his his leadership now in a way that I never have. Going to church every Sunday now, and
We're just listening for it.
yeah, that's the thing.
Just listening for it.
So-
I didn't know it was there
I didn't
until someone
either.
told me how to listen to it. And then once I started hearing,
I
wow.
had heard people talking about this phenomenon for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
longest time, right?
Even me.
Yeah,
I
you.
think I would tell you about
You
this kind of
absolutely
stuff, and
did.
you would always support me,
Yeah.
but I didn't feel like it was something that you identified with.
I didn't get it. It
Yeah.
didn't make sense to me. And it does now, and it does for Nicole. And so, connecting with my pastor now and really trying to build a better connection with the church community. I want to start Bible study. In August, we're actually going to start a men's group over there together. And I know you've been doing some of that stuff
Yeah.
too. And I love every bit of it. But you just said something super important. It's listening for it and listening to it, right? And it's okay to ask God for things, but he may not want to give it to you in that moment.
Right.
This may not be your time for that or ever, So
Might not be prepared to receive that.
correct. Yes. And throughout my life, success has led my way and my views on where I want to go next, and it was always, all right, I had to make calculated decisions and decide what the next best thing's going to be for us. And we would just do it. And it happened to work out great. And I don't say that, to sound, I need to make sure that everybody understands that, like, we work really hard to get there and we appreciate everything that we have been able to accomplish. It's never about, oh, look at us, here we are. You talk about we would kind of storm our way through life at times, but it was really just about building a great experience for people and for our guests and our diners. So listening to God now has helped me understand that, when the time's right, something's going to happen, and I just have to be prepared to receive it and to understand that there are parts of this that are out of my control. All of it is really out of my control, right? So what's next? I think there's a lot that can be next, and I think my passion for food will always remain, but I think what I want to do more with this experience of almost losing my life and coming back through now to reconnect with my business. You had asked why I need to jump back in, and I'm kind of going a little all over the place with this, but I do want to jump back in quite a bit more now. I've started to a little bit.
I've seen you. Yeah, your feet hit the ground recently. And
I
it's
did
been-
my
it's
first
been
event.
Nice to see you
Yeah,
in the social world and out in the community, doing events, posting pictures.
For years.
That's the Brian we know.
Right,
That's the
and-
Brian we love. That's the Brian we support.
I appreciate you saying that. That's the Brian that I love, and
Yeah.
I've been disconnected from that Brian for too long, and 3 years of being a hermit crab is what I call it. Not being social, and I wasn't emotionally prepared for it. I wasn't physically prepared for it. So now that I've put a lot of that stuff in the past, and I'm able to at least, I tested myself recently. I did an event and I prepped for 3 days. I was in so much pain, Blake. Like, my left foot was just throbbing for days. But when I actually left the kitchen each day and when I actually executed the event and the dish came out from my brain to the plate and it looked the way that I wanted it to, one, I was like, all right, I didn't lose it. I still got it.
Still got it.
But two, it was such a rewarding feeling to know that my passion's still there and that I reconnected. I felt alive again. I know I've said this, on a few posts on social media, but I felt invigorated and alive again. And I think that's what I was missing was I needed to feel life again. Because
We're creatives.
for sure.
We're creatives, right? And that's the gift that God gave us, whether it's a plate, whether it's a fireplace, whether, whatever it is,
Yep.
right? We're creative. We have to mentally create this thing,
Mm-hmm.
come up with a plan on how it's going to work out,
Mm-hmm.
execute it, get the pat on the back or the wow, you know what I mean? Feel great, and then go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Because after that fireplace is done, like I'm talking about the next one.
You're not
Like,
going to stand there looking at it forever.
Yeah,
right?
it looks great. I'm glad you're happy. Thanks for the check.
Yeah.
Let me go build a bigger one.
Well, and you
Let's do
can
something
relate to this
crazy.
too. In the food world, you put all your heart and soul into poaching that cherry perfectly and taking that pit out, and you do all of this to put it on a plate in front of somebody, and in one bite, it's gone. It's totally gone. They never get to see it again unless you go and spend all that time doing it again, right? So, but that's the part. You're right. That's the thing about being creative, and you want to build new things. You want to be able to beat that next thing. Part of the fun for us in this community has been that most of the experiences that we've built for guests, some of their guests for the clients, some of their guests that are at the table, they're like, oh, we got to hire Crave for our dinner.
Yeah.
So they call us a month later or whenever it is, and they say, so we had so much fun at the Smith's house. You blew it out of the park. This was so much fun. We want to do something. We want to do it a little bit better because the Smiths are going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like now all of a sudden they're in competition with each other, and they got to build it higher and higher and higher. And, the nonprofits in town, rightfully so, they want to build an even more attractive event next year that they can fundraise even more money for.
Yeah.
And they come to Crave and say, you did awesome last year. We got to do even better. So how high can we go, and how much can we keep being creative? I don't know the answer yet, because somehow we keep trying and getting there.
Yeah.
But at some point you have to think, like, I think that's why old trends come back into
They do.
style.
Yeah.
And I think right with home building too, you're starting to see things
It comes back. Yeah.
it's retro, right?
Yeah.
Like clothing and food. It's like farm to table. That's nothing new.
Yeah.
Farm to table is what food should be about,
Yeah.
And so you learn how, I think you push the envelope as much as you can, and then you got to kind of start from ground zero again. So that's where I feel right now I am in my business. Is I'm entering a business that's thriving, doing well with a great team, but I'm looking at it from ground zero, and I'm letting God lead the way.
Yeah.
And I want to just take this path.
Results are always better when I put it in God's
my
hands.
Goodness, I believe that wholeheartedly, and truthfully, I think I started to say this before, that even though my passion for food is still super strong, and I want Crave to continue to succeed at that level, I think that my connection with people is going to be a whole nother level.
Take you
now.
somewhere else.
And but I think more in the medical side of things.
Yeah.
I've got some irons in the fire right now, and some things that I'm working on that are really personally connected to me and my injuries.
Okay.
That I've experienced in life now that I want to, help others with.
Yeah.
And so
I can identify with that.
Yeah. Yes, you can. And honestly, I learned so much of that through you, whether you believe it or not. Just seeing your commitment to your goals in your own life, and the things that you had been through, that you throughout time have tried to educate others, right? As a mentor, we actually hired some of them over at Crave, and watching them grow into who they are today. We look at some of them out there. Shout out to Moody, right? Some of these chefs that have just done such a great job and going from 0 to 1,000. It's amazing to see that. And I love being that in my team as a mentor, as a leader, to enable people to express themselves. One of the things I can guarantee, if you talk to any of the chefs that work for me, is that I do not put handcuffs on anyone's creativity.
Right.
I want you as a person to be able to express yourself through food, because somebody gave me that opportunity, and I know how valuable that was to me, and I know that helped me grow into who I am today, and I want to share that with the world, because we've created some of the best things in our business through other people's vision. And the number one thing I will say is that I have surrounded myself with people that are better than me my whole life. Yeah. And that has to be something that I continue to do, because I won't get better unless I do. Yeah. I don't want to be stuck ever. And you and I would spend hours and hours and hours with our teammates studying books, and we would just we'd riff back and forth on ideas. We'd spend hours, and it was so enjoyable, right?
Yeah, uplifting each other.
Totally.
Taking each other's ideas to a higher place,
right.
For a common goal.
And so much of it was stuff that we had never done before, and things that were like, well, I think
try.
we could do this. I think we could do that.
I remember you buying me all the molecular science stuff. So all right, go after it. You know what I mean?
The first time we learned how to do caviars, right? And we were making little flavorful caviars. Right. and somehow Blake became the caviar guy, because you had the ability to just the stamina, right, to get through it. It was a lot of hard work sometimes, and like one droplet at a time of a pineapple juice that we were turning into little pineapple caviar. It was crazy times. So I think so much of where life has taken me now is through God's eyes and word, and I
love that, man.
Very passionate about staying connected to that.
I love that. I'm gonna end with one more question, and it'll probably go into a few minutes of conversation. Then I have a couple rapid fire questions that I didn't send you, so that I can surprise you a little bit. Of course, that's how the rapid fire works. But key moments in our friendship.
Oh gosh. All right. So I think the first time that we sat down and you expressed to me an interest in joining my team, that showed a lot of respect. I think it allowed for me to share my respect for you. And I think that built, and it was really in that moment. I remember it at,
Whole Foods?
No, actually, we ate at USS Nemo.
Oh, then that's right, Nemo's. That's right. Right. Yeah,
we were both. We had two meetings.
Offered me a job at Whole Foods.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. But it was inspirational, I think, for me, because here I am trying to start my own business, and I didn't know really where I was going to take this thing. I knew what my own abilities were, but we had gotten to a point where I just couldn't do it alone.
Yeah.
And the fact that you were willing to leave what you were doing, which was part of your passion too, to come on this journey was it was amazing. And I think over the years, when I got to know you closer and you got to share with me some of your deepest and darkest, it built a trust in us that I knew that anything you would say to me and anything I would say to you would stay right there. And we believed in each other. We trusted each other. It helped us, I think, just know, even if we weren't together, that we were always together.
Well, that always showed up, because as busy as my life got after I left Crave, and as busy as your life got after I left Crave, we always seem to reconnect with our wives, and a dinner or going out or coming to our house or us going to your house. We always might be only once a year or once or twice a year, whatever it was. But when we did, it was like we had never left.
It's unbelievable.
And those kind of relationships, I have them with a few people.
Yeah.
But those are the ones and it was like we would be talking for hours. The girls are talking, and then and it happened, but through your accident, I reached out on text messages and Facebook and and I never heard back, and I never heard back, and I never heard back, and I was just losing so much hope. And then I remember seeing the bubble with your name, and I was like, no way, he might be responding. I thought, oh, this is his office. Right. You know what I mean? And it was like, hey, chef. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, this is crazy. And you're like, you want to come over? And I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And having that talk on your back porch, and you're all beat up, and you're all still going through all the stuff you were going through. Yeah. And you asking for my trust. Hey, come over, but you got to, it's
got to stay between us.
It's got to stay between us, And so that, but that allowed us to grow as friends again, and for you, and then it allowed for our children to grow as friends too,
which I love.
So that's,
and we have to mention here that Crave didn't only get us a lot closer and help us grow, in a lot of great ways in our friendship, but you wouldn't have your beautiful wife and
that's right, baby,
and your beautiful daughter
right here
if it weren't for Crave, right?
And you guys seem to remind me of this in so many occasions.
It's a beautiful thing though for us to see that the two of you met at Crave, and those of you who don't know, Kristen was a huge part of our success as well, and and you guys would flirt a little bit here and there, and we would always assume, is there something going on there? And I just remember that day when Nicole saw that post of the Dunkin' Donuts gift cards, and it was like she came in the other room. She goes, "That's it. They're dating. I know it. I'm sure of it." We messaged you with that photo, and we're like, "We're on to you," and that was it. But no, I think that was also a fun moment, right? But over time, I think learning to trust one another at that level. But I think some of the more recent special times have been being able to reflect on where we are in life.
Yeah.
And sharing with each other our successes and failures. I think and there's a lot on both sides.
And I still reach out to you, hey bro, this happened,
right.
What
do you do?
And or I just say, hey man, it's had a big win. I want to share it with you. And hey, I messaged you that day. I love seeing you back on Facebook, whatever it is, like just little stuff like that, and
it's a mutual respect. And, I think we've heard of the lifelong friends, right? And often it's the childhood friends that you grow up with, and you and I, we met each other later in life. And for us to have such a bond to this day stronger than most.
Yeah.
I really value it. So
Yeah.
thank you for asking that question.
I do.
It's a great reminder.
And I can't let you talk about your lovely wife and daughter without me saying something about mine, of course, as well, because of Crave Culinary. Because of you guys hiring Kristen, I was able to meet the love of my life. And I do believe that we have quite possibly the best wives in the world.
I do too. Yes.
Because they allow us to go be who we have to be, to do what we have to do out in the big world, while they stay home and make sure that we're good at home and our families are safe and protected and our homes are ready for us when we finally do come home after a 16-hour day or whatever it is. Our wives have spoiled us so much. And I think that's why they get along so well.
Yeah, right.
And why we get along so well.
Yeah.
We like being in the limelight. We like being out. We like being at events and all that fun stuff. And our wives love to support us. And so I can't thank my wife enough. And I know yours is a saint for what she's been through over the past 3 years. So big shout out to Nicole.
Yeah, for the whole 12 years, right?
Because, well, that too. Yes, not just the last 3, but
and I think also to mention too, and those of you that don't know them personally, you know, they were a huge part of both of our businesses. Huge part for years, working hard in our businesses.
Kristen, I mean, for the first 3 or 4 years, she ran the back end of Becker, whatever that was, until we could afford to hire the next person, you know. And
so I want to give them kudos for that, because it took a lot of extra work on their shoulders and focus on their shoulders. So the fact that they now have these beautiful, you know, daughters and can really find, you know, joy in more than just business, which I think you and I can relate to a lot too. It's a special time, and I love you, Nicole. I love you, Kristen. You guys are the best.
I love you, Nicole. I love you, Kristen. We love you guys. Anything else before I do rapid fire? Anything else you wanna put on the table?
What do I need to prepare for here with this rapid fire? No, I'm you know, thank you again for having me here. I'm honored to be on the show, of course, and you know, I'm excited to see what life's got ahead and got in store for both of us. And I'm on God's path, and I'm excited for it.
I'm going to do a little bit of a drop. Hopefully, I'm going to get a Chef Brian Roland stamp of approval or accreditation for Built to Eat YouTube channel, which is in the works, coming soon. I know there'll be some episodes with Chef Brian Roland. It sounds like you might have some things coming up. And if you're having things come up that are public events, you know I'm going to be there, and we're going to bring our crew, and we're going to eat, and we're going to do food reviews, and we're going to support, and we're going to do everything that we've been doing for all the other local restaurants recently. But we're going to do that, of course, with you, and I know there's going to be some fun collaborations coming up with that. So Built to Eat, guys.
Built to Eat 239. I'm watching some of these little clips you guys have been teasing. I look at it and I'm like, man, this has been Blake all along. You know, it's like, it's funny when you have an opportunity to try something and really put your mind and your brain, your passion towards something. You've loved to eat good food. Yeah. And you've been searching for good food all the time, right? Yeah. But I think that was one of the best parts of having you on the team, was that you were not afraid to try something. You were excited to perfect it, and you wanted, to try more of it, and so seeing you do these little reviews now, it's pretty cool, and something I definitely want to be involved in any way you'd like me to be.
Chef Brian approved. Built to Eat.
Yes, sir.
Subscribe. It's coming. It's coming. Rapid fire questions.
Here we go.
Favorite dish to cook at home?
Oof. All right. So Nicole's gluten-free. I do enjoy cooking fresh fish over vegetables. Sometimes it's the most simple stuff that gets us going. And healthy, I think now especially, because I need to make sure that life is keeping me healthy and I stay out of the hospital. That's an important part. So so super healthy. I know it's a cheesy answer, but really it's just
fish and vegetables.
Fish and vegetables.
Nothing wrong with that. Secret ingredient you always keep on hand.
Aside from love.
Watch out, girls. Watch out, girls. He said it.
And I'm not just talking about in the kitchen. No, really good high quality sea salt is super important. I think
not table salt.
No,
sea
salt. Mm-hmm. Good pots and pans, a great knife. I mean, these are some basics, but if you don't have really good quality stuff, and that goes for every ingredient that you use, you're not going to get great quality product at the end. So
put in shit, get out shit. I remember that from the kitchen days.
That is what we live by, right?
That's right.
Man.
Most underrated restaurant in Southwest Florida.
Oof. Geez, in all of Southwest Florida, I'm gonna stick to just this closer area. We love Baba.
Yeah.
Persian Bistro is awesome, awesome, awesome. And up here in North Naples, we also love Côte d'Azur, French restaurant.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and look, we order Indian food from Passage to India, like
Yeah.
on the regular at our house. Some of our favorite Indian food. I mean, we love Chef Asif too. Like, don't get me wrong, Chef's great. He just shut his doors recently.
He did. He's got a big event coming up at Sales too.
He does
next week,
and we're also doing an event with him at the end of the month.
We got two food reviews we got to do.
Yeah,
awesome. All right, if you could cook for anyone, it's the last question. Living or dead, who would it be? Jesus himself. The man.
That would be. No, I would like to cook for Daniel.
He likes fish and bread.
I would. I think I'd like to cook for Daniel Boulud. A huge mentor. I only got to cook, meet him like 4 or 5 times because he had so many restaurants, and but I think I learned so much about cooking and about structure and about really just loving every ingredient. And I think being able to come full circle now and have learned what I've learned and be able to get back into the kitchen and cook for somebody like that, that'd be a huge milestone for me. That'd be amazing.
All right, guys, you saw it here first. You heard it here first. Chef Brian Roland, built by Becker. We're done.
Out. Oh man,
that was good.